Now we also need to, as I mentioned, we also need to be able to maintain the security components of the core server. The first one is to make sure that we've got a good backup of the certificates that the core server uses. When we install the core server software, during that installation, certificates are created. These certificates are self-signed. They're also non-expiring, so they're good for the life of the core server. And these certificates are used to carry out our certificate-based communication that occurs within the software. Now again, these certificates are also found in the core server. Again, if I drill down into Program Files, LANDesk, and again we have the Management Suite directory. But here, the certificates are found here in the Shared Files area, underneath the Keys folder. Now the reason why they're in this location is so that we can keep them secure. The .key file here is the private key. And again, it's created at the time that we install the core server. The name will always be LANDesk _ and then this 10-digit hash. If I go in and I rebuild my core server, I'm going to get, again, another .key file, which will be LANDesk _ and a different 10-digit hash. But the .key file is our private certificate. The .crt file is the public certificate. This is a certificate that would go out to the client machines. And the CER certificate is used when we're dealing with a roll-up core server. Now, to improve the security that we have within the system, we take the CRT file, we make an exact copy of it, and we turn the file name into a hash with this .0 extension. So this is the file right here that we actually put out onto the clients. We don't put the CRT file out onto the clients, we actually put the .0 file out onto the clients. Now, on top of that, we also have, out on the core server, another copy of that .0 file. It's down into the LD logon share on the core server, which is an area that is where all of our client-related resources are found. And as I get here into this particular area, what I'm going to see in here is, again, a copy of that .0 file, which is right there. And this is the copy, again, that is going out to the client machines. This sits out here in the LD logon share. Now, again, it's very important that we have a copy of these 4 files, a backup copy. And when we make that backup, we want to make sure that it's stored in a secure location. So we want it in an encrypted archive, or we want to burn it to a CD and store that in a secure location. But again, we want to make sure we've got a backup so that in the event that we have to rebuild the core server, these files are readily accessible. Now, when we rebuild the core server, we're going to get a brand new set of certificates. Now, these certificates do not match the certificates that we have on the client. It's not a certificate pair. And so our certificate-based communication is not going to be functional at that point. The only way that we can get that back in operation is to be able to reintroduce these 4 files. We need to be able to get these 4 files brought back into our newly built core server. Now the file names will be different, so we'll be able to bring in all 4 files into this area, and we're also going to want to put a copy of the .0 file over in the LD logon share. So when we've done that, we're going to have 2 .0 files in the LD logon share, 2 .0 files here in the keys folder, 2 CER files, 2 CRT files, and 2 .key files. So then the question is, what do we do with the new files that were created when we rebuilt the core server? Can we rename them? Can we delete them? Can we move them? And really, we can't do anything with them. They have to stay right here, and we can't rename them. Otherwise, we're going to break the security that we have within the Endpoint Manager software. So very important that all we do is we just reintroduce the files that we backed up into this particular area. And again, that's how we maintain the certificates that we have here on the core server. Now, using those certificates, not only do we get our encryption and decryption, but we also get this certificate-based communication where there's handshaking going on and other uses of those certificates here within the software. Now, they also mention here about the secure client access. As you saw there, we only have just a single .0 file. And when I put that certificate out onto a client machine, that certificate now is going to allow that machine to communicate with the core server, with, again, the handshaking and our certificate-based communication. In the event that we might need to block a machine from communicating with the core server, we can't shut that certificate down, because not only would we be disabling that machine, but we'd be disabling all the other managed devices that we have. because they all have the same certificate. And so that's where our secure client access comes into play. Now what we do is we actually build a certificate for each one of our client machines. Here underneath the configure menu, again, let me go back into that again. Under configure client access, I can come in and I can see that here I have my managed devices and they have an approved certificate. Again, and this is the unique certificate that's been created for each one of those devices. Now, I can come in, once a machine has an agent installed, it's going to have a certificate that is in an unapproved state. I can come into this area, I can find the machine and highlight it and click down here on Approved Selected, and that will then allow that certificate to be approved. Now, if for whatever reason a machine is lost or it's retired or we're taking it out of the system and I no longer want that machine to be able to communicate with the core server, I can come in and find the machine, highlight it, and hit Block Selected. By clicking on Block Selected, we're basically blocking that machine from communicating with the core server. Now, if the end user thought that maybe the machine was lost, but then later on finds the machine, then what the IT technician can do is they can come back in here and they can find the machine, highlight it, and hit Approve Selected. And again, that machine will then again be allowed to communicate with the core server. So this is our secure client access, a new functionality that we have with our certificate-based communication that allows us to either approve or block a machine from communicating with the core server. Now, on top of that, we also have the ability to come in and to see how that communication is occurring. If I come down here down to security and compliance and I drop into the security activity area, then we can see in here all these places where you see the key with the little green check mark is an indication that again these machines have a good working certificate, that the client certificate is valid. You can see in here in the details it's just showing us that the client certificate is valid, and it's checking that on a very regular basis as we're doing different tasks, as it's communicating with the core server. We're able to validate that that certificate is clean and accurate in the jobs that it's running. So again, through that security activity area, this is an area that we can come in and see how that certificate is operating.